the primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI 6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Jim Mulhall, we met at Harvard in July. It's now September and we are here in Dublin. Welcome to Ireland.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, listen, you made the trip over for the launch of AI Playbook today, but, you know, we're here just to catch up again on where AI is going and what part we are playing. But first of all, introduce yourself to my listeners and viewers.
My name is Jim Mulhall. I worked in banking security for about 15 years. I did anti-fraud, anti-money laundering, cybersecurity, but most recently, crisis management. I was the head of crisis management for a mid-sized regional bank. And now I'm kind of focusing my energy on a project about using AI specifically for crisis management.
And we spoke about it today. And in fact, we spoke about it when we were together at Harvard Business School, is that domain expertise is really where we can leverage the power of AI. So I lean into my comms and marketing specialism, you leaning into crisis communications. Like we spoke off camera and off mic about what you need to do during a crisis. It's labor intensive. Just explain some of that process.
Sure. So when people say crisis management, there can be a few different meanings of that. And in my particular space, it's usually about an organizational response to a crisis. So that's the whole organization, and communications would be one very important piece of that. So in the kinds of work that I do when managing a financial institution, but it could apply to others as well, to get through some sort of crisis, whether it be a natural disaster, some sort of technology outage, or whatever it may be. You kind of act as the hub where all information kind of comes and goes, and therefore organization is created and efforts are made to respond. So what will happen in the beginning when the crisis first erupts, sometimes it can be slow moving, like you have plenty of warnings, such as, let's say, a hurricane, which we know a few days in advance, or something suddenly happens. You start to become bombarded with information. So I have had a team that I would be working with, and I use the team in order to kind of manage all of this, because there's much more information coming in and response that needs to be taken that any one person could possibly do. So my team would be working for me to kind of manage all of the information coming in, managing how we're responding to things, communicating all kinds of evacuation messages or messages to senior management about what actions we're taking and so on. AI has the potential to absorb a lot of that and particularly kind of drown out the noise, because one of the very first things that happens, especially if it is a fast breaking kind of event, is that you will get pinged so much in every form of communication areas, from phone calls to Teams and Slack messages to emails and so on. There's no way any human being can keep up with it. Never mind even respond to it. You can't even read everything that's coming in. So to be able to use AI to be consolidating all of that information that's coming in that you need to respond, and then also help you in the response to those inputs that needs to go out, it can help you with that. And then very importantly, though, we also need to be keeping track of what's happening when and what we're doing about it. So a lot of times we would actually have one person just take on the role of scribe and just devote all of their energy to just tracking everything that's happening. So the information is coming in, and then you're making decisions based on whatever it is that you know at the time. So it's extremely important that you are able to document what you're doing, when, and why. So one thing I tell people who are in crisis management is that, or people who are interested in getting to it, is that you have to be willing to accept the fact that you're going to have to make very important decisions very, very quickly based on incomplete information and not knowing what the consequences are. You have to accept that, part one. But then part two is you then later have to accept the scrutiny of people who don't have to make those fast decisions, who don't have to face the consequences of those decisions, and who know what the outcomes will be after the fact. And then they're going to scrutinize how you made your decisions. So one of the things I want to do is develop this tool that will be tracking all the information that it can be just put in very quickly into this one sort of place be creating a log and cataloging all of that, and then the decisions that are made against that information. So we can say at the time we were making decisions based on what we knew. Now, if you want to second guess them later, that's fine because you have more information. But at the time, this is what we knew, and this is why we did what we did.
And so managing a crisis in real time is information and data overload. You take a sidestep and you leverage AI. We now have supercomputer brains that will not be overwhelmed because, in fact, it's data that fuels the power of AI. It loves it. The more it has, the more intuitive it can become and the better decisions it can make, then with obviously the human in the loop. So this is quite an exciting time for somebody who is 15 years in crisis management and has seen, let me say, quite a lot in your time, a lot of human devastation too. So are you excited about the potential?
I am, because I think it has the potential to really help. I've worked in banking, but you can imagine how this could be applied to government and so on. So it's an interesting kind of parlor game to think about what would the Cuban Missile Crisis have looked like if we had AI available at the time, or what would 9/11 have looked like if we had AI available at the time. But this will be a real thing. You'll have managers in government, in private sector and so on, who are working hand in hand with these systems. And they will be returning to AI to help with a lot of logistics. There's a lot of technical stuff. Say, for example, you manage a company with 1,000 locations, and there's a fire at one of them. Gathering all the emails and all the contact information to send evacuation, or probably phone calls, there are systems that do that, but it's not easy to do. It's usually not at your fingertips. AI will be able to put that at your fingertips. So that's there's a logistical piece that AI will make very, very easy and fast. That will be very helpful for increasing safety. It will really help us be able to react to stuff very quickly. But then also, it will be able to tell you options for what you might want to do in any one particular situation. Now, one thing I think it will not replace is the ownership piece, is the responsibility for the decisions that are made. No one is going to outsource that to AI, at least anytime in the future. And even when we get to a point where we are letting AI kind of automate certain decisions, someone's still going to have to be responsible for who authorized that automation. That part is never, at least not anytime in the near future, going away. So AI will be very useful in helping us organize our efforts, considering options, and helping us make decisions, turning down the noise, clearing up the fog, so that the humans can make decisions as fast as needed.
So you got to sit in a room with Irish professionals from government, public sector and private sector, a very different dynamic to US. But you can see that there's still a lot of questions and a lot of concerns around, well, what AI, the problems that might arise, what if we make mistakes? But you brought an interesting perspective this morning, and that was, well, you want to be engaging with organizations and companies that are embracing AI. In fact, you've made a deliberate decision, and I thought that was a really interesting perspective that you shared, because we need all of them to get on the AI bus. Do you want to say something about that?
Sure. So what you're referring to, what we talked about this morning, is an article that I had put on my Substack called Resiliency Expertise. That was about, I was made a job offer by a company. It was a good job, and it was by a company, a large Asian bank that has made a deliberate decision not to be a leader in AI. Now, that may sound a little crazy when you first hear it, but it was a good decision for them, because there's going to be a lot of mistakes made when it comes to this, and there's going to be a lot of regulatory scrutiny. And they're basically saying, we don't want to be those people that make the mistakes. We'd rather maybe suffer a little bit on some long-term costs by not being a front runner in it. However, it makes sense for us to learn from others who do it. That's a perfectly legitimate strategy. However, from an employee point of view, as they were telling me this and telling me that as if it was a benefit to me that AI won't take my job in the next couple of years, I asked myself, well, then where will my job be in a couple of years? What will my resume look like? And what will be my place in the job market look like when I've just spent 2 years having nothing to do with AI. And it's very hard to see how I would be congratulating myself 2 years from now saying, great, you did nothing with AI. Like, that does not seem like it's going to be an advantage a couple of years from now. So change happens. It happens whether we like it or not. And I think there's a temptation to resist things that are new and are a little bit scary. It's perfectly human and understandable, but it's probably not going to be a successful long-term strategy. Change comes. We have to embrace it. Even if it's not exactly what we want to be, but it's better than being overrun by it.
I mean, I get the sense that if you went into AI crisis management and help people manage a crisis caused by AI, you'd be very busy. Do you anticipate that will be a business opportunity? I know you want to create some sort of technology that mitigates that.
Yeah.
But if they're not putting the right guardrails in place, it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think so, because a lot of this kind of work tends to be very organizational specific. So it can be based on top of a large language model, but it won't be able to do everything. It's not going to give you the specifics of location. You know, when a crisis happens, you say people, places, and technology. Those are the things you want to manage in that order. And so those are specific kinds of information, a list of where all of your employees sit, a list of all of your buildings that are maybe in a hurricane path, and all your technologies that are specific to your company. Large language model is not going to be able to do that. But what you could do is build something that specializes in the domain of a specific company or a specific organization, so they can react in the same efficiency that we use something like Claude or ChatGPT, but specifically for a particular organization, and be able to give them all the details that they would need about it.
So how are you going to lead from the front in your sector when it comes to AI? How are you going to get your tribe to come with you?
Well, what I'd like to do is kind of, exercise some leadership in the thought space. I'd like to work on continue publishing ideas about AI and how it's going to be used in this space, as well as also to even sort of beyond the crisis management space. I think AI is just fascinating for a number of reasons. But I'd like to exercise some thought leadership in that way, and then also develop a tool that organizations can use that will be specific for them, that will really make a difference in how they manage a crisis. It won't replace the people. You're still going to need people to do it, but it will make those people much, much better at it.
We should give a hat tip to the wonderful people that we met at Harvard Kennedy School. Where we met, we were kind of class buddies because we were sitting beside each other for the week there, but some really remarkable people working at the top end of their game across all sectors around the world. But in that room, I felt leadership.
Yeah, I agree. People
coming and saying, well, I'll put my hand up and do this extra work now, because it is. I mean, we're almost reinventing ourselves. That's how I feel. And you need energy and enthusiasm for that. And speak a bit about the people that we met there.
This was I think the 5th course I had done in the executive education program at the Harvard Kennedy School. Obviously, I like them a lot. They're great programs. This one was definitely one of the better. They were all good, but this one was even one of the better ones. And the reason that I do these courses, and I don't do the online versions, I go to the campus, and you spend a week in Cambridge. I wouldn't even consider really. I don't want to say I wouldn't consider doing but I prefer to do the in-person ones, because it is really so much about the people that you meet at these things. Again, another example of how technology is not going to replace people. It's being in the room with these people. It's the conversations you have over the coffee and the dinners and that kind of thing, where you get to learn all kinds of things you wouldn't in a classroom setting. So the people in these courses were amazing. They were from every walk of life, from literally all over the world, private sector, government, military, NGOs, medical, just everything you can think of. And it's just amazing, because you get these people here who are really committed professionals. They all come to sit in the same room for a week, and then they exchange ideas. And that's really what it's about. Their backgrounds probably couldn't be more different, but the commonality is that these are people who are here to engage in the exchange of ideas in a very professional manner. And it's an excellent experience.
And are you optimistic for the future? Bots versus human, who will ultimately be boss?
I am optimistic, actually, but cautiously, right? I think we have to be. I don't think change is coming. Change is coming. A lot of the ways that we do things are going to change. There is no doubt about that. One thing I have learned about massive change from my experience in the past is that while massive change comes, it never develops in quite the way you think it will. So we're still going to need people. People are not going anywhere. And I think we should also even think long term is, do the bots want to be in charge? I don't know that they do. So people are still going to be running the show for quite some time. I am optimistic about that. We need to take the dangers seriously because they're real. But this will continue to be a person-led world.
Well, thank you for finally joining me on the AI6 podcast. I've been nudging you and badgering you for a while, but I love your writing. I've said that to you a few times, and you really get me thinking about new perspectives, and that's really important.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So where can people go and find your Substack newsletter, and where should they connect with you?
Well, if you go to Substack, you can look for Resiliency Expertise, and there you'll find my branded weekly Substack. And I'd love to hear from you there. Please subscribe, and you'll be hearing more from me.
Brilliant. Jim Mulhall, all the way from New York. Thank you for coming to Dublin.
Thank you so much.